My name is Drew Moholland. My wife, Sarah Conway. How's everybody doing out there? You don't get a response. That's what happens when you're live from your kitchen. I guess, well, can you believe it? We're coming up on the 4th of July here, 4th of July week. A lot of you have short weeks. Doesn't really affect our show at all. We're going to have 2 this week and 2 next week, but I know a lot of people, doesn't really feel like the 4th of July, does it?
No, not really.
It's been a weird 2020 for you. I know a lot of you still are making your way up north, though, into the Cape and whatever you do. So there's really 2 kinds of people, right? Either go north or you go to the Cape. Haven't you always found that?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's
sure there are other people, too. Don't go either of those places.
There are other people, too. But yeah, we usually go up north. I think we're going to hang around this year. But anyway, hope you all have a good holiday and enjoy your time off and all that stuff. It has been a crazy start to 2020. All this madness still happening in the world. Where do you even start? You've had enough of that. So a little bit of a distraction today. Actually, and when is, let's see, I'm trying to think. So it has been January, February, March. So like early March, this guy, Charley Carrozzo, started, a local musician, and he started streaming online from his house, just like all these other musicians. But he was like one of the first ones. He was like, I can't go play live tonight. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit down at my kitchen table or whatever it is and start playing songs. And people like loved it. Like his fan base just loved it. And he was like, all right, we're going to keep doing it then. He did it every night for the last 3 months, hit 100 shows. Unbelievable.
I know he has to be tired. It's a lot of work putting that together, isn't it?
My God, can you imagine every night singing your heart out? And like this guy's not like
he's having to sing.
It's not like a handful of songs. He's doing like a full set every single night for people.
Yeah.
It was insane. I watched it. I mean, it was on in our house all the time. I actually went out and bought a what do you call those things for the TV? That
the
Chromecast thing, so I could watch his shows. He was kind of the first one. Now it's great. Now I watch everybody on the TV. But I was like this. So I went out, bought a Chromecast, and had Charley on TV every night at 7:00. And it was just a really cool thing, especially if everybody was kind of really struggling to watch anything, and everybody's hunkering in at home. People are getting out a little bit more, it seems now, but man, it's been a crazy last three months, and Charley's been playing every single night, didn't miss a night, so just incredible. So I don't know, we couldn't do that.
No, definitely.
Granted, we're not as talented as Charley, but man.
Nobody would watch it.
I know you are. What are you doing? Are you running away here from the shows?
Yeah, I have some work and stuff I have to do.
Okay. Well, 4th of July week here, folks. Be safe. Sarah will be around. I don't know if maybe she's done for this show. Maybe she'll come back. Who knows? She's a wild card. Anything else you'd like to add about Charley or about the week in general?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Charley's great. I think it's going to be a great show. And I'm going to watch it afterwards.
There you go. Well said. All right, let's bring in Charley. I think he's ready to go. Thank you, Sarah. All right, so here he is, Charley Carrozzo. And first of all, Charley, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good. I'm doing great, Drew. I'm a little disoriented after taking a pause here, but I needed a break. It was time.
I see you leave the door open to another long stand, which is interesting. We'll talk more about that later. But here's the setting I'm so familiar with. You got the this is where you do it. This is where we at here. Where are you sitting down?
This is it. This is the second. This is actually Goose Cab 2.0. The stream that I was doing is called the Goose Cab because the goose is right up there and cabinet in the other room. But the internet started going in and out in the other room, so I moved it in here, switched it to a different cabinet, and this was the setting for the last, 50 or 60 nights. So
the world where we rely on the Wi-Fi, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right, explain the goose thing real quick, because for people that have not been following you like me, are probably going to say, why does he have a goose behind him and in front of him?
Well, so when I started it out, I was in the other room. I'm in one of these old houses in West Newbury, and I had this weird cabinet up above a fireplace that I think was in the olden days where they would put the bread so the bread would rise. I think that's the function of this cabinet, but it's so small that we didn't know what to do with it. So we had a wooden goose and we put the wooden goose in there. And so I needed something to call my live stream. I figured I would give it, a venue name, because nobody could go out, and I figured it would be kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, give it a name it like I would name a bar, or a venue. So I called it Live at the Goose Cab, because that's where I was sitting in front of. So
beautiful. All right. So that's where we talk to you here from today. All right, let's talk about this stand. First of all, first of all, thank you for the music, because the last, 3 months, you ended up doing 100 nights of music in a row. And I was just saying before you got on in our little intro, this is not like a handful of songs here for the people. You went all out, full set, singing your heart out. How'd you do it?
Well, I started, it didn't start out to be that way. I went up, I wanted to do something, I felt, I wanted to be connected and, sort of reach out to my friends and family out there. And I think I did 4 songs the first night, and then I did 6 or 8 songs the next night. And then it grew into, hour sets and then hour and a half sets. And it just kept rolling, and people kept coming. And what I found more than anything else was, certainly I enjoy playing music, and that was fun and personally fun for me. But the people got on there and they started interacting with each other, and it became a real social scene. We were pretending we were singing along with each other. People were interacting. All these little games sort of cropped up. People were trying to name the songs before the other people sort of named the song first. And, all these sort of little interactions just made me feel connected to people. And it really, it got me through. And I've said this a couple times. I got way more out of this than I put in. A lot of people are saying, geez, how did you do 100 nights in a row? Or, that must have been really hard, or this or that. And again, I got much more out of it than I was putting in. And it was just a blessing to be able to do it. So
you said that right off the bat too. I remember like the first couple of weeks, I remember talking to you about this, and now we've kind of come full circle here 3 months later. But I remember talking to you only about a couple weeks in, and you said how great it's making you feel. So that's not something that like you're just looking back on. I mean, you knew it right away. You're like, this is something that is literally making me feel better in quarantine.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, it's good to keep occupied in times like these anyway, right? Yeah. Keep your mind on something positive and off something negative. And, it wasn't just escapism, although escapism was part of it. It was nice to have an hour to not think about the pandemic and not think about the job and not think about, and this goes for everybody, people who were getting furloughed or people that were working in hospitals. I had a lot of people that were, friends who are working in hospitals or working in old folks' home, and they would take an hour and, not think about, sort of the oppressive fear that they were living through. But it wasn't only that, it was also, like I said, what made me feel the most, the most better was being connected and feeling, going through all of this with everybody else. And for good or bad, that was something that just every night raised my spirits. Afterwards, I would read all the comments and see how people were interacting with each other, and just wouldn't feel so alone. And that was the big part of it.
It really is a cool thing. I would jump into those comments every now and then and throw one in there. And it's funny, you'd see somebody reply to something, you say, I love that song. I heard that song, first time in 75. And, they have a story or something. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'd get along with Jim, who I don't know,
Right. That's right. A lot of these people, I mean, it started out, a lot of people, I knew them, but given the nature of the internet, other people were inviting their friends. And now I've seen, 100 nights of comments from people that I've never met before, but I feel like I know. And we are going to have one heck of a party when this thing's over, and I'll get together and maybe wear name tags so everybody can figure out, put a face with the internet comment.
It's that line just reminded me. I heard Springsteen say recently on that radio show he's doing that he said, at the end, we're going to have one big party and you are all invited. I said, okay, then there you go.
That's right.
Local musician Charley Carrozzo joining us now. 100 nights just finished up in the book of playing live every night virtually on Facebook, and it's just been such a cool thing. Was it hard though? I mean, did you ever think about taking a night off? You got a family there. It was cool to see them in that final video, but I know you got a wife, a kid in there. Like, were they ever like, we just need some peace and quiet tonight there?
Well, I mean, that's a big part of why I, took a break for now. And I'm not saying I've stopped. I will open it up to, hopefully there won't be a major second wave and a second shutdown, but things don't look great right now. And, but I did need a break, and about a month ago, I figured it was going to be 2 months. I wasn't planning on 100, to be honest about that. But it became obvious that doing it every night was a big part of the comfort for other people and for me, for myself, but doing it every night and everybody having something to rely on. I got comment after comment about how people, in the uncertainty, they were happy that they had something at 7 o'clock to tune into and could count on it. And so, I did it every night. About a month ago, it started to get hard. I was spending a lot of time trying to find new songs to keep it fresh. And, we went over 1,000 songs, 1,000 separate songs. And I think I played 1,800 songs over the course of the whole thing. 1,054 separate ones. I had a friend who counted all the songs. We call her the head Goose-torian, my friend Leslie. And she cataloged all the songs after a while. About halfway in, she started making lists. But I was having a hard time coming up with new songs, and keeping it fresh. And, so it started to become, hard. And my voice, I don't know how it lasted that long, but it did. And, but that started to get, I started to have to warm up more and more before I went on. Then my family, they wanted to have a summer as well, so they sort of had a talk, and we said, okay, well, let's put the number 100 on it, and that'll take us out more weeks. And, so we set an end date, and then that sort of got some more wind in my sails because I had an end date on there. And, I'm going to take a couple weeks and then probably come back and do one night a week. I'm doing Tuesday nights with my friend Gary Backstrom, the Coal Boilers. So, I'm going to be doing that this Tuesday. I'm going to stop that. But I'm going to take a couple weeks off the Goose Cab and sort of see what happens, and then maybe come back on a once or twice a week basis. So
it makes complete sense. I did think it was interesting when you announced that this was going to be your final couple shows for a little while. Like there was legitimate pain from some people. I saw, this is a tough day for me. I would just like to say thank you for people were really struggling with that news, which I thought, what a great compliment,
It was a nice compliment, but I feel the same way. Yesterday was weird. Yesterday was the first night off in 100 nights. And, I found myself almost immediately going into bad habits. I'm checking Twitter too much with all the news. And I'm just, and I'm responding to people on Twitter, which is even worse. That's something I was not doing for the last 100 nights, so I got to watch myself, it was a real positive thing. And, I think everybody else was in a routine, and it's tough to get out of a routine like that. But, it's something that I can certainly start back up if I feel the need to. So.
Absolutely. What do you think about I've asked pretty much every musician that I've had on here, and they all say there's no getting around it. The virtual thing, while cool, and it's a great way to get your music out and connect with people, there's no way around it. It is weird to finish a song and get nothing back at you as far as applause.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. Like, I think the first couple weeks, I just didn't even know how to do it. How would I? It's like, but I looked at it like recording in the studio. You don't get that applause in the studio either, and you still have to, manufacture or summon some sort of energy that's like your live show, if that's what you're used to doing. If you're not used to recording every day in the studio. But after a couple of weeks, I got really used to playing into my phone, and I started to really enjoy it. I would like I said before, I would ask everybody to sing along at home. I would ask them to get out their pots and pans and play percussion with me. And, then I would ask them to send me pictures of them playing their pots and pans, or them sitting around, or them, making dinner or putting their kids to bed, whatever they were doing, watching the Goose Cab. I would ask them to send pictures, and we started a Goose Cab family page, and people started posting things there. And that, even though it was after the fact and I wouldn't see it until after the show, it still made me understand that there was some interaction going on live. And, then the next night I would be able to imagine everybody in their houses and doing what they were doing. So I did feel like there was interaction, even though it was sort of a delayed thing.
And I know off the air, you've told me how much those pictures and videos all meant to you too. I know that was one of the real rewarding things for you, was to get that those kind of memories back at you, and just how people were going through this with you. It was a really cool thing. You, Charley, have your own, of course, Way Up South band is the project that I'm sure you miss playing with terribly right now. And you mentioned the Cold Boulders too, the duo. You have a lot of your own material, so you're mixing that in. What was it like going through these set lists every night? I mean, it seemed to me it was something you thought about a little bit. I mean, you had set lists, you had ideas. What was the whole?
So I thought about it a little bit. I'll just bring this up. So
oh boy, what are we reaching for?
So you can see these are the set lists. These are all and they're not just set lists. They're sort of my standard thing would make a list of songs like about that size, and then pick 14 or 15 of them, and I would do it every night. Spotify helped a lot. I had my own songs, of course, that I could fall back on anytime I felt like I was too far out on a limb with songs that I wasn't really comfortable playing. I would just grab one of my own songs and start playing that. But Spotify would help. I'd seed it with one song and then press the button and say, oh, I could play all those 10 songs. And, I'd look them up and learn the chords and learn the song and play it. And
you took some chances too, though. I could tell there was some stuff that, you even announced it some nights. Well, never done this one before, but whoever wanted it, so we're going to try it.
Yeah, I got a lot of requests, which was great. And it was definitely a crowdsourced set list for a while, and which was great. And I had, it's funny because a lot of my friends and fellow musicians gave me a little heat because I'm very against iPads and music stands on stage, unless you're a horn section and you're, learning the parts, or a jazz musician. That's, sort of a different thing. But, my thing is always like, Robert Plant didn't use an iPad, like Led Zeppelin didn't use it, so I don't, I know I'm sort of in the minority these days, and maybe a dinosaur for thinking that way, but I'm very against iPads on stage. But for this gig, I certainly had an iPad by my side, and, had the chords and the lyrics there, because I was learning songs that day and then going out and playing them. And I would say I was out on a limb, and, some of them worked and some of them didn't, but, that was sort of part of the fun of it. And I don't think anybody expected me to be perfect. And again, this was, I'm not being false modest with this. The music was a very small part of it. I was a reason for people to get together, but not the getting together was really the reason, not the music. And it was so much more about people having something to do and be together than it was about, me getting out there and shredding guitar and playing songs perfectly,
And, you were early to it too, because so many, pretty much every musician is now streaming. They pretty much learned that, this is the way we're going to have to go about this for a while. But you were like right out of the gate. So did somebody help you with that? Or did you just kind of realize right away, like, okay, gigs are canceled. How do I get my music out? Was that all you, or did somebody get in your ear and say, here's an idea?
No, I certainly wasn't the first. I saw other people doing it, and I said, that this is what it's going to be for a while. And, I said, let me try it. I picked, picked 4 songs that I knew really well, and I went up and did it. And the response was good. People shared it around, and then, you know, it felt good to do it. I got some great, you know, like I got some, you know, good feedback, you know, from my friends. And I said, okay, well, let me try it tomorrow. And then I did it the next night, and I just kept doing it.
What do you think, life in quarantine in general, was this kind of would you say it's been tough? Has the music, is it something that you look forward to every night? Like what has the whole experience been like? Is it, you know, obviously a lot of family time, but.
Yeah. So it kept, you know, it kept me doing something. My family was really supportive during this. It wasn't easy on them. You know, they
would have to be, right?
Yeah. They indirectly gave a lot of their time because, you know, it wasn't time spent with me. There was at least 4 hours of practice every day to come up with one show. You know, I was practicing for 4 hours, learning these songs, getting these songs, learning these songs. My wife was walking around the house with her headphones on all day, because not that she doesn't like to hear me play guitar, but by day 50, she was pretty over it, you know, and my son had his headphones on, and, you know, so.
You're saying there's a level of too much Charlie? Is that what you're saying?
A little bit. We decided we're gonna go. We're gonna go. We have a sailboat, and we decided we're gonna go sailing and you know, take a trip and go anchor and sleep on the boat. And the first thing my son said was, "You can't bring the guitar."
Oh, that's great. That is fantastic. Well, how much I know this is, I'm actually very proud of all the, not only all the local musicians that we've had on my show over the years, that I'm kind of indirectly involved in that circle now, but just so many of them, and all musicians are just stepping up. Like the artists are just really, they've really been there through this pandemic, and just, you know, it's really been a main source of entertainment for people. And especially at the local level, I can't tell you how many people I've seen just really giving a lot of their time. And I know they're not getting too much back. And it's just a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. Well, people are being supportive. Like people, you know, you'd be surprised. I mean, I'm not saying anybody's making as much as they were. And certainly it's very different for musicians, but it's amazing. Like the Coal Boilers, my friend Gary Backstrom and I, the thing we're doing on Tuesday, we have to pay for the studio. So we've asked for Venmo and PayPal donations for that. The Goose Cab was a little bit different, but the generosity was still the same. We didn't ask for PayPal. I didn't ask for PayPal and Venmo donations for that. But we did ask for people to donate to charities. And it was incredible. We raised thousands and thousands of dollars for 3 different charities that are local charities up here on the North Shore. And the Venmo thing with the Coal Boilers, like we're doing pretty darn well with that. And I'm surprised. And this is like, you know, this is people just realizing that musicians are, you know, and I'm sure some of the restaurants are getting the same support. You know, people are realizing that musicians have their income has just disappeared, and they want to support, and it's been incredible.
That's a really cool thing. It wasn't there that when you first decided to, I don't remember what the first charity was, but wasn't there a story of like the place didn't really know where the money was coming from, and like somebody had to go explain it?
First one was Our Neighbor's Table up here, which is a food bank. And they were the first. Then we did the Jeannie Geiger Foundation, which is a domestic abuse foundation shelter, and then the last one we did was citizensin.org, which was an organization that helps people transition into housing and sobriety. And, you know, all 3 great causes. But the first one was really funny because all the donations kept coming in. And I told people to say, you know, the Goose sent me, or, you know, things like that. And they had no idea what it was. And then they figured it out. And we ended up getting a really nice letter from them. But yeah, thousands of dollars for each one of those charities came from the people that were watching the Goose Cabin. It's, you know, it was incredible.
That's awesome. What is it? Again, Charley Carrozzo joining us from Way Up South Band and the band Way Up South, and also the Coal Boilers. Why don't we pitch that a little bit too? Because that's a cool production. Tuesday nights, you can watch it on Facebook and any other avenues to get that. It's a great production.
Fusion Blue YouTube channel as well. Fusion Blue is a sound company up here, and talk about somebody who's lost his revenue stream, right? My friend Dave Hill at Fusion Blue, he does sound for the Yankee homecoming stuff. He does sound for all of those, big events. He was the one that started the Byfield Music Festival. All of these things are gone for him. Everything canceled over the summer, all these big events, right? So he sort of refocused himself. He's a very smart guy, and he refocused, and he's got a multi-camera shoot going at Fusion Blue, and you go in there and it's completely COVID friendly, so to speak. I mean, it's, the whole place smells like disinfectant. He's got it all wiped down when you go in there, and he's got a 3-camera shoot set up, and you can go in there and do this. And the Coal Boilers show, I mean, it looks like it is a completely professional production. And of course, he's a great sound guy, so he's got the mix just dialed in perfectly. But he's got the 3-camera shoot going with the cameras fading in and out, and it's amazing. He's taught himself, how to be a live video editor, and it's really incredible what he's able to do in his little studio.
It really is a nice job. It's like you're watching MTV, and for the kids, I'm talking to the MTV when they used to, have music and that sort of thing. There was a day. Yeah, nobody knows what I'm talking about under the age of never mind. We won't put an age on it. How much do you miss playing with the band? I know your guys in Way Up South that's going to be tough. I can't imagine those are like your brothers, and it's going to be tough.
As much as I've loved the Goose Cab, there's, a couple shows, not even very many shows in, maybe 5, 6, 10 shows in, I started missing the power of having a bass and drums. All I was craving was the bass and a kick drum, just to feel that power behind me, and I love playing acoustic guitar. Acoustic music is some of my favorite. I'm a big Neil Young fan from early on. That's the first music that got me out of whatever was on the radio. And I think we talked about that the first time I sat down with you. But this is, but not having a bass and drummer, and of course a lead guitar player, but really it's the bass and drums that I started craving early on. And we're gonna have our first rehearsal on Monday, tomorrow. It's the first time we're gonna get together before this thing started. We have maybe have a gig up in New Hampshire. We'll see how we all feel about it, and if it's gonna be safe. But so it's not a definite thing yet, but we're rehearsing for it, and it's going to be a masked rehearsal. We're going to go into the rehearsal space. We're all going to be wearing masks, but I can't wait. I can't wait to get together and do it. So I miss those guys. I really do.
Is this the longest that you've ever gone, not being on a stage?
Oh yeah. Longest I've gone since high school.
Wow.
It's been strange, it's been really strange, but it's, there's worse things, right? I keep saying this, I have an 11-year-old son, and, he's missing out on camp, he's missing out on seeing his friends. He's missing out on all that stuff. And I have to explain to him that, it could be worse. To him, his worldview is, no, it can't, but, my wife and I talk about this all the time. I talk to my friends. We're not being called to the beaches of Normandy. We're being called to sit on our couch and watch Netflix, and I sometimes find it surprising how much people are complaining, and I understand it on the one hand, but let's get a little perspective, I think, is the clear way to think about it.
that, Charlie, is why you're going to want to stay off Twitter right there, because you will find all sorts of stuff that will make you very angry. An 11-year-old, I do want to real quickly on that, because you mentioned having to have these conversations and the talks with kids. I don't have kids myself. I can imagine they're not easy though, because trying to give a life perspective to an 11-year-old is probably not something that you really thought you had signed up for at this point through a pandemic. Well,
he's a bright kid. But I, not to get too political, but he is upset that he was born into the time when this certain person is in the White House right now. He feels like that's very bad luck. And this isn't us. This is him. He's smart enough to realize that this guy isn't right that's in the White House. And also to have Corona. He thinks it's a double whammy, and he feels very unfortunate about that. But I think he got through the last 3 months a little better than he's looking at these next 3 months, because what he was missing out on is having to go to school. And he didn't mind that quite as much as missing out on camp. He does not like the prospect of missing out on camp. I think these next 3 months, that's what he's really upset about. So, and I don't blame him. So.
Understood. What are your thoughts on I went to a drive-in concert the other night in New Bedford. I was interested, so my wife Sarah and I, we took a ride, did the 1.5-hour ride down to New Bedford, and it was it worked. I thought it really worked. You pull in, you got a space next to you, so that's kind of where if you want to set up a lawn chair, you pretty much go in. You have the right to 2 parking spaces, and it felt like a concert. It was a Ryan Montbleu show who we've had on before. And he got a good turnout, and it felt fairly normal. I wonder about your thoughts on the live music industry going forward.
I think that's great. I mean, I think right now, outside is sort of where everybody's at, right? I think people are nervous about, especially with the way some people are behaving in regards to masks. I think there's a lot of trepidation about bringing it inside, and I don't blame people. I mean, I think outside is, you got to go with people's comfort level, number one, or nobody's going to show up. So there's no point in having these shows if people don't show up. So I think that's a good stepping stone, and I'm glad to hear that, you felt comfortable there. I'm glad to hear that you felt like it was a worthwhile experience and felt like a concert. So I think that's the way that, I think playing and, if people can set up a restaurant outside with tables, they can certainly set up a stage outside with tables, and towns are going to have to sort of deal with noise ordinance if they want to, and you're going to have some places that are going to let it happen and some places that aren't. And hopefully, we can have a summer of some sort of live music outside. It's the inside shows that I think people are, being cautious about, and I don't blame them. I'm not sure there's any safe way to open up these restaurants and bars inside right now.
Yeah, and you can kind of get. I think we've all maybe been in situations, and maybe you haven't, but I know the couple times that I have been. I'm still going into work, so it's even just being inside, you can kind of get yourself caught in these situations sometimes that you lose focus for a second, and maybe somebody doesn't quite respect your space as much as you thought they should. So I mean, that can just happen anywhere. So I think outside is probably the way we're going on the concert front. But
yeah,
at least for a while.
You throw alcohol into that mix. And
yes,
it's like I've talked about doing private parties, and we are doing some private parties, and sort of you used to have a rider that you would say, okay, we need this, that, and the other thing, well, one thing that's going on that rider is I got to be able to pull my car up right behind the stage, because I don't want to have to load out my gear through a crowd. And that's, sort of one thing we all got to sort of about, but yeah, there's a weirdness with the politeness too, because even, I'm finding myself, somebody will come up to me, without a mask and and they're a friend of mine, and they'll be close to me, and and like an idiot, I'll stand there and talk to them for 5 minutes because I don't want to just blow right past them because this politeness thing. And, you know, it's hard. I think we're all sort of learning.
Definitely is. And those are the things I guess musicians are going to have to be thinking about too. Just little things like that, pulling the car up behind the stage. Very interesting. Charley Carrozzo, as we finish up here, a little rapid fire for you. I'm going to keep this a little bit Goose Cab centric here.
I love the rapid fire. Ready.
Yes, you did well last time, if I remember correctly.
I did not last time.
You didn't? Yeah, all right. Well, I'm trying to think. Hopefully I'll change the questions up enough here. All right. Best request you got over the last 3 months?
Best request. Wow, that's a really tough one. So I'll say I got the best requests I got were I don't have a specific song, but I would say the best requests I got were from the people who were requesting songs for Yacht Rock Friday, which every Friday I would play the Yacht Rock, like, you know, Steely Dan and Kenny Loggins and things like that.
And you would dress the part. You would dress the part too.
That's right. I had a silver lame tuxedo jacket and an ascot, and I would do the whole thing. But what I found was people really, it's a secret, not so guilty pleasure of a lot of people. And so there were people that I would, you know, never expect to, you know, want to hear the Yacht Rock stuff. But you know, I would get Hot Child in the City and like, you know, all of these just sort of cheesy songs from back in the day. Let Your Love Flow, The Love Boat I actually played, and that was a request, you know, so that kind of stuff was just great to get that. Smooth Operator, that was a great request, you know, all of those songs. Sail On by the Commodores, Summer Breeze, Seals and Croft. Like, so those songs it was hilarious to get those requests from people.
That is too funny. All right. Do you know what
I'm going to go with The Love Boat was the best one.
Love Boat? Okay. Do you know what the most requested song was?
The most requested song by far was Ripple by the Grateful Dead, which is the song that by far. We played it for, and this is something I wanted to mention. There were people who, and I know I'm messing up your rapid fire, but
you're terrible, as it turns out. Yeah, now I remember.
There are people who died over the course of this, and a friend of mine's mother passed away, and, you know, he asked for Ripple, and we played that for him. And then, you know, other people would play it to remember their parents or friends who had passed away and things like that. So playing music in that context was so important. And so it got requested for various different reasons. We had another friend whose father had passed away, and I played Country Roads for him while he was in the hospital and all their family was there. You know, we played songs for people who had just had a baby. We had 2 deaths and we had 2 births during the course of the Goose Cab. All of these things happened during the course of these 100 days. And, you know, playing music in those contexts is so important. So anyway, I'm ruining your rapid fire.
No. You see, we joke about you being bad at this, but this is really why I do this game for, is to open up to those stories. That's really the whole point of it.
All right.
That's great. That's very good. And I did not know that. Those are great stories. I don't even know how to come back after that one, actually. That's so good. All right. So we did what was the moment during this all when you said, I'm not playing that. I can't play that song. I'm drawing the line there.
Well, there was I don't have many lines, you know. I love the cheesy stuff. Like I said, I played The Love Boat. I played I Will Survive. I played Madonna's Holiday. I played a lot of Taylor Swift. I actually like Taylor Swift. I played for a 14-year-old's birthday, and they requested Taylor Swift. I had a 10-year-old that requested Billie Eilish. I played that, which I like Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish, so that's not like crossing the line. You know, the only thing I would say I won't play it is when I couldn't play it. You know, like there was a lot of people wanted to hear a lot of the Steely Dan, especially on Yacht Rock Friday, and I had to work to find a Steely Dan song or two that was easy enough so I could play it on acoustic guitar.
I bet. That is very cool. What was the video or the picture or like the moment that was sent to you that you'll never forget? Is there one that stands out?
Oh man, there's a few of them, but yeah, there's one. My friend, my friend Dave's son Gabe, he is a 10-year-old. Now he's 11. He had a birthday. We had a big birthday party for him on the Goose Cab. He started requesting things like Crazy Train, and I actually played that on acoustic guitar. You know, but he was also requesting Imagine by the Beatles and Allman Brothers songs, and this is a 10-year-old, right? And I just was so blown away by that. And then he sent me, his dad sent me a video of him saying thank you for playing all his requests. And that was the moment that I realized that this thing was a lot bigger, even though, you know, it wasn't thousands of people watching, but for the 100 or 500 or so people that were tuning in and out every night, you know, it meant a lot. And it meant a lot. And this family was watching every night, and this kid was making requests, and he sent me a video just saying thank you for playing all his requests before he was going to bed. And it was so cool. He had a Trans Am t-shirt on for his pajamas, you know, and I was like, oh my God, you know, this kid is cool. So there was a lot. I also got videos of my new nephew who was, you know, he was saying, you know, trying to say Charley, like Harley's playing. He was saying Harley's playing, and he was saying things like, and I got videos of him watching the Goose Cab. And then I also played, I'm terrible at this. And then I played a song called Pizza Pie that was written by a friend of mine's kid when he was 2 years old. He was now 3 years old. And I played his song, Pizza Pie, gimme, 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 that pizza pie. Great too, good hook, right?
Right.
So he was watching me play it and singing along with me, and they sent me that video. So those are the three that just killed me.
I stumbled across that video myself. That was very cool of him watching his song come back at him from a pro. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
What is the, I think we'll end with this one too. Something tells me that you may have gained a lot more fans through all this for when that moment does come, when things get back to the new normal and we're playing live to people again. Do you think that's true?
I don't know. I know I have a lot more friends than I did when I started. You know, it's, yeah, I think people really enjoyed seeing music from their couch. You know, I think people will see if it translates into ticket sales and people coming out live. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I certainly connected to more people than I ever have. And, you know, I said this a lot on the Goose Cab, but the best thing about this was I am more connected to more people than I ever have been in my whole life. And that's such a strange thing that it all happened virtually. So I hope I do. I hope I do see more people out. I do know we're going to have a big party when this is all over. So.
Perfect. I said before we brought you in here in our little intro, I said that I tried to keep up with as many of the musicians that have been on the show and just, tried to share as much of the music as I could, just because, you know these people and you want to be supportive. And you were one of the first ones for me. And I knew this was going to be a thing. I actually went out and bought a Chromecast for the TV just so I could watch you on the big screen there, which was nice and relaxing. So that which is a very cool thing, as it turns out. I'm using it for a lot of stuff now, but I went out and bought the Chromecast, and we had you on pretty much at least parts of your show almost every night. It was kind of like my Red Sox baseball isn't there at 7 o'clock anymore, but Charley is.
Yeah. Well, you were a big part of it, and you and your wife, and I appreciate you guys being a part of it. It's, you know, that, like I said before, that was the biggest thing about it was being connected. And, you know, so it was a great thing, and it's not over. You know, the Tuesday night Coal Boilers thing will go on, and, you know, after a couple of weeks, I'm going to pop back on, probably do every Sunday night. And then, you know, like I said, if for some reason, this whole thing ramps up again and we have to go into more of an extended lockdown, I'm certainly going to start it back up again because I need it just as much as everybody else does.
So great, man. What a cool thing to watch. Cheers to a great 100 show stand, and all the best here as we head into the summer, and let's hope everybody stays healthy and we can see you at a real live venue here pretty soon, huh?
All right. Cheers. Let's keep in touch.
Thanks, Charley. Bye now.
Thank you.
All right, Charley Carrozzo right there. His band is Way Up South, and the Coal Boilers is his little duo project that he does. Catch them every Tuesday night, as mentioned earlier in the show. Just an unbelievable thing, obviously. You can tell he's a great guy, really generous performer too, and this was just a really cool experience. Just we really did have him out of the house pretty much every night. I have, as I've mentioned on the show before, I have way too many of the artists streaming right now on our TV anyway. I think Sarah has actually asked for like a movie night every now and then just to kind of separate it a little bit because I kind of go overboard with these things sometimes. But it's just so cool to see what all the local musicians have done through this pandemic and really being there to pick people's spirits up. And nobody has been there more than Charley. 100 shows, was on it out of the gate, and just every single night, 100 shows. And that huge set list of songs you saw too. What a folder is, and what a memory that will be for many years to come. You can keep that thing and tell all the young kids someday about what 2020 was like with that big folder. So Charley Carrozzo, thank you. And what a great thing, raising the money for the charities you mentioned too. There's all sorts of sidebars to that story that I love, which is why Charley jumped back on the show again. Can't wait to see him live. Can't wait to see all you musicians live. This is the last show before the 4th of July. I know it feels a little bit different this year. Hopefully you can get out and do some of the regular things that you like to do. But we are still in a pandemic, so we're always thinking about those medical workers, many of whom are working through the holiday. So keep them in mind and be safe out there. All right. Have a good holiday, everybody. Big thanks to Charley Carrozzo. Big thanks to my wife, Sarah Conway. My name is Drew Moholland, and this has been Live from Drew's House. Bye-bye now.